Full authority meeting of November 15th. This is a hybrid meeting. The recording of draft news will be posted to KCCA's website on November 15th, 2023. Live the night. Staff, guests, and the full authority board meeting is being recorded. It will be posted to the authority's website along with the official minutes. As such, comments and opinions expressed may be published, and any comments expressed by individual board members, guests, and the general public are their own, and do not represent the opinions and comments of the full authority or the KCA board of directors. The recorded video of the full authority meeting is not considered the official record of that meeting. The official record of the full authority meeting shall consist solely of the minutes approved by the full authority. I think we need a roll call this morning since we have a couple on duty.
Alderman Sand.
Present.
Burrs.
Present.
Herbert.
Present.
Jones.
Present.
McMillan.
Present.
Cribble.
Present.
Noble.
Present.
Trousseau.
Present.
Wilson.
Present.
Okay, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest?
Mr. Chair, I have one. Closed session item A.
Thank you. So, duly noted. Any others? Seeing any, we'll move down to the next meeting of October 18th. Full authority. There's your reference there. Sharon. All in favor, vote please.
Alderman Sand.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble.
Yes, but it's really difficult. I don't know if Sam has the same experience, but it's really difficult to understand and hear.
All right, we'll try to speak up, Jerry. Is that better?
I think it would be better if people all muted if they're not speaking.
Okay.
Okay, so I have Cribble, Noble,
Yes.
Trousseau,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
and Jones,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
And for the November 8th, 2023 executive committee meeting, any errors or omissions there? If not, we have a recommendation minutes of November 8th, 2023 executive committee meeting be approved. Noble and Wilson. Call the vote, please.
Alderman Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
Trousseau.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Okay. We'll move down to matters arising. First report from Mary Ann regarding media reports. Go ahead, Mary Ann.
Mary Ann's on vacation, Chair, this week, so I'll fill in with just a brief highlight of things. Betsy and we undertook the Carolinian Forest Festival in September. Great to see the students back out at Spring Water, and great turnout there as well. We've been doing some invasive management control out at Kirk Cousins, so there's some pictures and social media posts about that activity. And as you all recall, the logs were lifted at the Dalewood Dam as well. So some other projects to highlight that staff have been undertaking: the construction of a wetland creation project in the city of St. Thomas. You can see before and after pictures on the screen in front of you. We've started planning already for the Children's Water Festival. So this will be back in our neck of the woods in 2024. We hope hosting it at Pinafore Park with over 3,000 students attending from grade 2 to 5. And the campgrounds, the guys have been busy in the field winterizing the campgrounds, blowing the water lines, and just generally making sure the grounds are ready for the winter season. Sorry, there's just a few other pictures staff have put up there. This is some before and progress to date pictures on the renovations we're doing on the Kirk Cousins parking lot. If you get a chance to drive by, I would encourage you to do so. I think it's a great project. It's really going to open up that area and make it look great come next spring. And as I mentioned, there's some invasive species work that we've been doing with students from the Regina Monday Catholic School at the same site have been undertaken for some invasive species control.
Questions or comments? Lori, go ahead.
I was wondering the address of the project in St. Thomas.
Betsy, could you answer that question for Lori?
Lori, are you referring to the invasive species management around Lake Margaret?
No, the wetland,
Oh,
creation of a new wetland project.
oh, sorry. That project was on Bush Line, so just on the border of St. Thomas and Southold. A great project adjacent to a provincially significant wetland, where the agricultural field sat wet seasonally anyways. So we were able to enhance that area through the creation of the wetland that you see there. It was just completed recently. So over the winter months, it'll be nice to see how it fills up and naturalizes in the area surrounding in the future years.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm hoping that you're able to answer this one for the Water Festival. In the past, I've done and managed one of the booths. If you would like, I would like to offer my services again for next May and encourage other members of the board to do so because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would love that. I'll make note of that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, John.
I guess we're talking water. I guess we're talking water, slowly, like a German radio there. No, see.
Anything further on that report?
Not on project tracking or media report, but maybe we can call on Jennifer to do the watershed conditions.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pretty quiet in November. The area was the water they're fluctuating really fast. The areas it's people fire, which is kind of nice, but it was like last year, same time last year. We're starting the week actually today. No snows. Not until May, it's in partnership with the for what we're warning. We also successfully lifted the stop loss at the other dam to reduce the pressure over the winter months. So successfully completed at the end of October. You can just see the water has changed.
Okay, any questions for Jennifer? If not, a recommendation that the minutes, the matters rising A through C be received. We were secretaries. Jim, Todd, call the roll, please.
Baldwin Sands,
Yes.
Burrs, Herbert,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Tribble,
Yes.
Noble,
Yes.
Trousseau,
Yes,
Wilson,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
We have no state and revenue expense this morning, so off to new business. The MFIPPA and the FIPPA delegation, we have some recommendations there. Elizabeth.
This report is basically a matter of housekeeping. Up until this point, we have the powers under the Municipal Freedom of Information Act, basically to appoint a head as well as a coordinator. In the past, the head has been the chair of the board and the coordinator was the director of operations, Joe Gordon, in terms of that position. As part of the 2022 salary review and job descriptions, we looked at various job descriptions and the decision was that the privacy coordinator was better suited to be under the umbrella of the GIS Information Services Coordinator. So again, this is just a matter of housekeeping. What we're asking to do is rescind the motion that made the chair the head and Joe the coordinator, and restate it that the chair is the head, but the coordinator position be reassigned to the information coordinator. So I'm asking for two motions this morning, one to rescind the motion FA 43-2017, and then make the recommendation that's on the screen.
Questions or concerns? Not seeing anything, so recommendations for you, Lori is moving. Seconders, Grant. Call the vote, please.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Pribble.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
Trousseau.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Okay, we'll move down to item B.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I took that motion as the motion to rescind.
Oh,
So we
okay,
need the
sorry.
motion to make the actual recommendation.
So moved.
Second recommendation, Sam moves. Jerry, you want to get in one of these?
Yes.
Okay.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Pribble.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
Trousseau.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Now we're down to Curley for Lake Whitaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're seeking approval today from the board to start searching for a replacement for our Lake Whitaker crew lead position. As outlined in the advanced package, it is a 40-week contract position. Under our policies, if there's less than 4 months in between the contracts, we can rehire without posting. So our Dalewood coordinator, who's been in the position for a few years, crew lead, sorry, has expressed his intentions to return. But our Lake Whitaker person submitted their letter of resignation in September. He said they're returning to school to continue their education. So we were hoping to get out with the job ad in December so we can get an early start on interviews to have that position in place early in 2024. The other note of interest is typically that contract position would start after the approval of the budget. So being in March till December, we do have some need for some extra hands to assist the field staff with some early hazard tree removal on our trails. So we are contemplating having one or two of the positions starting earlier to offset those labor needs, but it wouldn't change the term of the contract. It would still be 40 weeks. So we're just today seeking permission to start posting that ad and seek a replacement for an early start in 2024.
Questions, Jim, go ahead.
So that's an 8-week contract, and you're gonna post it again after 40 weeks, or is it?
Yeah, so typically,
It doesn't, if the person really turns out to be a person, why would you just hire them full time?
correct. So, well, right now they're contract positions, but we do have a caveat if they're off for less than 4 months, they can return to that position. So like the person Jeremy in the Dalewood position, he's been in it for a few years now. He's expressed his interest to return, so we're not posting his position. It's the Lake Whitaker position because that person resigned to go back to school, so they have no intention of returning.
So you're gonna post it at the end of the contract?
Potentially, if the person that's successful in acquiring the position next year, if they intend to return the following year, we wouldn't have to post it. They can only maintain the position.
Because I'm just thinking it's a lesson in frustration every time you have to post something, and then you don't, if somebody can go somewhere for a full-time position. When they come for an interview. That's.
Through the chair to Jim, it's a matter of budget as well. We just simply don't have the budget to hire these positions on full time for the entire year. This position is totally funded through the campgrounds. So we would love to have full-time staff, permanent staff, but it is a matter of budget.
Laura?
And if I may, from my experience, some employees prefer that they get the 12 weeks off.
Itself. Sharon, did you say?
No.
Any other questions? If not, a recommendation of the lead crew Lake Whitaker contract position be posted in December 2023 to facilitate an early start for date of in 2024. Sharon moves, Todd seconds.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Burrs,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Cribble,
Yes.
Noble,
Yes.
Purcell,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yeah.
Jones,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Next is item C, proposed fee increases. Elizabeth, are you starting on this one?
Yeah, I'll take the lead on this one. Certainly, all staff have contributed to this report for their various departments. The fee policy was approved in 2022. It is an element of the CA Act, changes and improvements, and seen as a best management to have a fee policy that clearly states how we're charging our fees and the procedures for reconsideration. And the caveat that our fees be established mainly on a user pay principle. Staff have evaluated the different schedules in accordance with our different departments, and we've made modest increases throughout the fee schedule for a variety of the department areas. Section 28 regulation fees, which mainly deal with Joe's department, they have not increased. And in fact, there's still a minister's direction to keep those fees frozen for the duration of till the end of January 2023. We do not know if there will be a similar direction for next year, but in reviewing our fees with neighboring CAs, we still see that those fees are at a good level. So there's no changes to Schedule 1, Section 28 regulation fees. Schedule 2 is the conservation area fees. Joe does a comprehensive, basically analysis of neighboring conservation areas in terms of our fee schedules and looks at how we compare with those. So there are modest increases to those fees. We have also increased the hydro rates that are charged to our seasonal campers at Dalewood based on the rates that have been coming in for 2023. So it'll be increased from 21 kilowatt hours to 25 cents per kilowatt. There are additional fee increases for the seasonal campsites. We've introduced fees for a change request to cover staff time and resources and administrative costs involved in changing a seasonal camper from one site to another site at their request. Other fee increases under the watershed programs and services. This was relative to the tree planting program. We've increased the per seedling cost for both the over-counter seedlings and the seedlings that our crews plant, and increased our invasive species per hour rate that we would charge our staff out at to $80 per hour. And the administrative fee increases we're covering off in another. So if there's specific questions on any one of those schedules, I'd encourage the members to ask now, and staff can entertain the answers.
Questions, Jim, go ahead.
To the chair, if I camped there all summer, and took it as a seasonal event, would you have any idea what the average will be? Average, such a figure?
I'll let Joe answer that.
Yeah, so right now we ask for a $300 deposit on a 30-day statement for 5 months. That is coming in about average. There are a handful of maybe 15 campers that exceed that $300, but the majority have just under. And we actually have a few that are very low. So depending on their use, it gives them the ability to make their rate flexible depending on how much they rely on it.
Is it a refund if they use?
Yeah, so every year, if they have any leftover funds in that deposit, it transfers over to their next year rates. And if they decide to leave, it's full.
It's good, thank you.
Has a lot to do whether you have an air conditioner. Some of them have 2 air conditioners.
Little bit of background, we introduced meters that was a lot of excessive electrical use. As soon as we introduced meters, we saw 30–40% decline in hydro expenses.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, recommendation reads that the purpose proposed 2024 fee schedules for Section 28, Schedule 1 conservation areas in Schedule 2. And other watershed programs and services be approved, and further that the schedules take effect on January 1st, 2024. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Frank, seconder, Jim.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Burge.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble.
Yes.
Noble.
Yeah.
Trudeau.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
And down to item D, open data license and fees. I think Elizabeth's doing this one.
Thank you. So we did pull the specific schedule of the fee policy out as a separate topic, and it has to deal with our GIS and open, basically our data, and an increasing amount of requests from both the public and other agencies for access to things like our floodplain mapping and our regulation mapping. There were a couple of funding proposals that we applied to with both the Ontario and provincial government, which binds us to provide those floodplain mapping that we got funding for, to provide them to the public under the Ontario Open Data License Agreement. So this is increasingly putting questions as to staff as to when to release our data and how to release our data. Based on legal advice, what we're proposing is a stepped process in terms of sharing this information. And all of it would be shared under the Ontario Open Government License. So the first step is free of charge. If you recall or visit our website, you can go to, I think it's called Map and Property, and both our floodplain and regulation mapping is up there available for the public to see. They type in their address, a map comes up with their property on it, and they can see those regulations and floodplain mapping. They can then print that map for themselves. So that's already available free of charge. Then we have the second step, where we have different organizations or agencies coming and asking basically for project or specific information. So they're interested in an area of the watershed that they want to develop. They want to have access to those data sets to manipulate and compile with their own information and create their own maps. That would be kind of a step 2, where we would be looking at both an hourly wage for our staff to compile it, and then we would provide it to those agencies, again, under that open government license. Then step 3 would be specific environmental monitoring information. So that's information that this authority compiles through Jennifer's program. It can concern things like benthic sites, fish sampling sites. Those are information that we've collected. And so again, a staff wage recoup for the time that it takes for us to collect it. But in those scenarios, we would also charge a site-specific charge of $10 per site if they're asking for that information. And again, mainly because we're doing that work on our behalf, we should be able to recoup some of that cost. So the open government license, Ontario allows the user to copy, modify, publish, translate that information in any medium or mode they choose, but there's no endorsement. So the license does not grant any right to use information in a way that would suggest official status, and there's no warranty. So the information is provided as is, and KCC is not liable for any errors or omissions. And in a legal review, legal felt that this was perhaps the easiest way to share that information. It was a seamless way for staff to do it, and basically a fair and equitable way to get the information out to the public. So again, 3-step process. You just want free, it's available online. Step 2, you want a project-based, you're charging a minimum of 1 hour staff time to retrieve and process that. And step 3, our environmental monitoring, kind of under the same scenario, an hourly rate, and then a $10 per site fee. So with this one, we're recommending that that procedure be approved, and that the Appendix 4 of the fee policy be approved as well and implemented effective immediately.
Questions or concerns? No. staff at Southwold use GIS regularly, like many times a day, it seems, but it's come to be one of their most important tools that they use. We do use Kettle Creek for a lot of information on this, so with some of the developments, I think it's important we get our money back, that's for sure. There's no further comments, the recommendations before you, need a mover and second, please. Lori?
Alderman Sands,
Yes.
Burrs,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pribble,
Yes.
Noble,
Yes.
Trousseau,
Yes,
Wilson,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
And down to item E, seasonal camper application. James taking this one?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So now that the 2024 fees have been updated, we're now looking at getting approval on our 2024 seasonal camping permit application. This is an online application form that returning or new seasonals fill out and sign. Once approved, it forms the agreement of camping in the campgrounds. Very little changes. It's pretty comprehensive as it is. So mostly housekeeping changes with results of dates, procedures, and the new fees have been updated in that system as well. So we're just looking for approval of the 2024 seasonal camping permit application. Presented.
Questions? Go ahead, Jeff.
To the chair, if somebody books a season and then decide to leave after 3 months, is there a refund? Are they locked in for?
There is a refund, but then it becomes prorated, and because of the discounted rate you get as a seasonal, so what happens is if you leave. You get charged the actual monthly rate or nightly rate based on the time that you stayed in the campground. So usually after halfway through the season, it equates to. Mainly because the seasonal rate is 50% or less of the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Not, the recommendation that the 2024 seasonal camping permit application be approved as presented. Mover second. Sharon, Todd?
Alderman Sands.
Yes.
Burrs,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
McMillan. Yes. Pribble,
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
Trousseau.
Yeah.
Wilson,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Okay. Down to item F, proposed meeting dates.
So these are the meeting dates I'm proposing for 2024. Mainly, they follow the same schedule that we've had in the past, so the third Wednesday of every month, with a couple of exceptions that I just raised. So just for members' information, that January 17th meeting is the third Wednesday of January, but that's when we'll have our apportionment vote. Go into detail with that on the next report, and the budget vote will be at our annual general meeting on February 21st. Those are two very important meetings in terms of attendance and taking votes that you might want to put in your mark in your calendars now. The only other change I made to the schedule was basically looking at March. The March break always seems to be kind of a time where we have problems to getting quorum, as well as staff want to be taking March break, especially if they still have kids. So I did move this later in March to account for a break for March break, and then the ability to get the packages out in time. So that's a March 27th date is just off of that third Wednesday of every month. So if there's any issues or concerns, we can take look at it now.
Just one thing I noticed, Elizabeth, it says February the 21st, 2023.
Should be 2024.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shannon.
Jim?
I'll make that change.
These are meeting dates.
Yes.
Okay, assuming that, so thank you.
And Roma's the week after, right?
No, we're almost in,
Rome is in late January this year, isn't it?
yeah, we're going 20.
So I looked at January 17th, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's
The week after.
It's the week after.
there.
23rd or something. It's only Sunday, not even Wednesday, it's Sunday, Monday back Tuesday. In Toronto, so Wednesday can still be available.
Okay. There's no issues, I think, looks good from my perspective.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
I do have a conflict on February 7th, but that's an actual meeting where you want us to physically attend.
The February 7th meeting is kind of an audit finding, so it's kind of our last look at the budget. The auditor will be here presenting the draft financial statements for
Okay.
2023. So if you can attend, but if there's a conflict, as long as we have quorum, the other members, we should be fine.
I'm gonna come to the meeting. Right? Okay.
Okay,
I hate looking ahead. Just go ahead and we're all dealing.
The next spring.
I'm glad to see.
okay, so regarding the proposed meeting dates for 2024, need a motion to approve. Sharon? Todd?
Baldwin Sands,
Yes,
Burrs,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes,
Cribble,
Yes,
Noble,
Yes.
Trousseau,
Yes,
Wilson,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Okay, down to item G, draft 2024 budget and municipal apportionment consultation.
Thank you, Chair. So basically with the 2024 budget, this is a new process as a result of changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. And I realize that for most of the members, it won't be a new process. It's your first time going through it. But it does mark a little bit of changes for staff. So basically, the CA Act introduces a 4-phase budget approach with just some new caveats. So the first phase is basically what we've been kind of doing over the past years, categorizing our programs and services into those 3 buckets, as well as mirroring our revenue and expenses into those 3 categories of programs and services. Phase 2 is really where we are today. We want to look at our draft budget and pass a motion where we're circulating that draft budget and apportionment out to our municipalities for feedback. And then what we'll be going to is phase 3, where we'd be looking at approving the apportionment on January 17th. And after the apportionment is approved, moving on to the approval of the budget at our annual general meeting on February 21st. So we've been talking, I think, in a broader picture of 4 years over the summer months as we build the City of London budget. And now we're narrowing it down to basically to 2024. But a lot of the talking points remain the same. So staff have been looking at that 2024 budget and really trying to apply cost savings to it. We originally started out as high as 11% in terms of an apportionment to our member municipalities. But we looked at phasing in the 2022 salary and pay equity over 4 years, limiting COLA increases just to keep pace with minimum wage, increasing our fees for services that we just heard about earlier in the meeting, limiting drawdown of reserves to about 97,000 and limiting our capital purchases just to needs to allocate as much as we can to possible upkeep of the Dalewood Dam. The cost pressures remain the same and are increasingly mounting from year to year. Those increases to the minimum wage not only affect our ability to pay our own staff, but also a ripple effect in terms of other things like gas, garbage removal, all of those other things are increasing as well as those companies look to support minimum wage increases in their own houses. So we're dealing with a lot of inflation. We've got the new mandatory deliverables that's taxing our available staffing resources and reliance on reserves to support programs like tree planting, but also to support our contract staff in terms of our wage subsidy reserve is unsustainable. So we're trying to do the best that we can to limit the increases to the municipal levy. With all of those cost saving measures, what you see on the screen here is basically a pie graph of where we're generating all of our revenue from. And still with all of those pressures, 47% of our revenue is self-generated. So that's revenue that's coming through from those user fees. Things like the campgrounds are a significant contribution to our ability to keep the municipal levy down. And the municipal levy is broken out now into those three categories. Category 1, so those mandatory programs and services, flood forecasting, planning and regulations. That represents about 31% of the revenue coming in. The category 3 is those tree planting, environmental monitoring program, the apportionment agreements that we just went out and negotiated. And then that final category is a municipal category 2, but I almost link it to self-generated. It's programs that we're undertaking on behalf of the municipalities because you've asked us for that service. So what hasn't changed is provincial transfer payment. It remains at 2%. In your advanced package and what I'm proposing to send out to our municipal partners for consultation and an overview of our proposed budget, you can see there's a companion piece that explains our budget pressures as well as what we've accomplished in the last 5 years. And it clearly spells out at that first bar line of what the increase over 2023 is for your municipality. In this example, we have Central Elgin on the screen. It means an increase of just over $7,000 over 2023 levels. There's a letter to your clerk or CAO explaining the 4-phase process, as well as when we are going to be meeting to approve the apportionment and to approve the budget as well. This is a new chart that I've included in the budget. Hopefully it tries to explain to municipalities and can be used as a tool for you as well. It separates our programs and services out into those 2 categories. So the first lines there are category 1 and category 2. Those are the mandatory programs and services. So things like our general operating costs, our plan review and permitting, flood forecasting, dam operations. And then category 3 are those that this board deems advisable. So tree planting, stewardship services, education, and outreach. Then you can see across the top that we have the various revenue sources. So we have the category 3 municipal apportionment, funds that I'm getting from the category 2, funds that I'm getting from category 3, where programs are supported by self-generated, the provincial transfer payment, 61,000, is distributed amongst the mandatory programs and services, and then what programs and services are being supported by drawdowns from our own internal reserves as well. So hopefully, I hope that this graph at a glance kind of gives a better picture of both how we're categorizing our programs and services and the distribution of revenues into each one. So for instance, for flood forecasting, you can see that it's a category 1 program and service. What the total expenditures are that we're getting municipal apportionment from you, and that the provincial transfer payment basically remains the same to support that program. In terms of the apportionment, the draft budget sets out an increase of $81,688 to the municipalities over the 2023 levels. You can see the apportionment to each member municipality that's based on the modified current value assessment within the watershed. And so this graph shows the increase that it means to each one of your member municipalities. At that January 17th meeting, we'll basically vote on that apportionment, and it'll be a weighted vote. And what that means is you can see in the column 2 what your apportionment is for your member municipality, but no municipality can have more than 50% of the weighted vote in terms of that. The City of London is sitting at 56.71%. So in terms of the weighted vote, I redistribute that 6% out to the other member municipalities to make it a little more fair. And so at the weighted vote, you can see what percentage each member municipality will have at that meeting. In terms of the actual budget overall, it assumes the same level of programs and services as provided in 2023. We are making sure that we're delivering those mandatory deliverables, but within this budget, I am presenting a budget that's delivering those mandatory deliverables at a minimum requirement. So we're not doing extra bells and whistles on those deliverables. We're just meeting the minimum requirement. Which assumes a full drawdown of reserves won't be needed in 2023 and will be able to take some of our campground profits and push them to the capital and wage subsidy reserves, which will in turn take some pressure off in 2024. The revenue and cost assumptions continue to be revised as we get our final 2023 numbers in. So again, what we're presenting to the municipalities at this time is draft and will be continued to be refined as the 2023 year draws to a close. But we do know there's probably about an increase of 118,000 in wage costs alone. Same provincial funding, the drawdown of reserves, which equals a municipal levy increase of 81,000. In terms of each department area, again, really a status quo budget. General operating expenses, we're looking at backfilling senior level positions to help deliver those mandatory deliverables at a minimum standard. We're digitizing historical records with self-generated funding. The plan review and permitting, it's a stress point that we're just really not clear of in 2024 yet. We know that mapping and policy updates are probably coming in 2024. We've tried to allow for some contingency, but the full cost of those changes is an unknown for 2024. Flood forecasting is really status quo. In the last 5 years, we've invested over 174,000 to floodplain mapping using our own reserves and provincial federal funding. Dam operations is an increasing cost. We've estimated about 8,500 is required annually now to maintain and monitor the Dalewood Dam. Environmental monitoring, we're seeing those inflationary costs hit this department. Jen's been very successful in negotiating lab fees in the last couple of years to stay stagnant, but 2023 was the last year of that discounted rate, and we're probably looking at a minimum of 10 to 12% increase expected in 2024. Conservation lands and campgrounds, again, inflationary increases are hitting those departments hard relative to minimum wage increases. We're trying to increase fees to compensate, but that's a balancing act between the ability of people to pay and keep our level and interest in our services high, but cover our costs at the same time. The same thing with tree planting, inflationary increases hitting that department hard with minimum wage, fee increases to compensate, and a continued reliance on reserves is unsustainable. Stewardship is really status quo. Whatever we can fundraise ourselves, we implement back out on the land, and we will be hosting the Children's Water Festival in 2024. So again, where we're at right now is very draft, but I think it's important to get out to our member municipalities and share the work that we've done so far in terms of trying to decrease our ask of them, but get it out. We do have a minimum requirement to give them 30 days notice of the apportionment vote on January 17th. If we waited to release our draft budget until the December meeting, we wouldn't meet that 30-day requirement. So I'm suggesting we get out early, give them lots of time for you to talk to your councils, provide the messaging that we've given you to date, and hopefully build buy-in for what I think is a defensible 7.5% increase.
Questions or comments? Go ahead, Jerry.
With taking money out of the reserve, the 97,000 and change, what does that leave the overall reserve picture? Is it risky or is it?
Right now, I think it's manageable, it's not sustainable. I'll give you a full reserve report at the next meeting, once I have a better perspective of what's happening at for year end. And you'll be able to see for yourself what that impact is. Certainly for the tree planting program to continue to pull from reserves is not sustainable. So we do have tough decisions to make in terms of our tree planting levels if we're not able to find a sustainable source of funding moving forward. It has typically been a contract with Ontario Power Generation that's helped support that. There is an RFP out right now that we will be submitting to, and with help the executive, we've identified some other possible funding sources that we can look at as well. But that is one area that if we don't find some good sources of funding for 2024 and beyond, we need to relook at the level of tree planting that we're doing, because we can't continue to support it either without increased municipal support or stopping drawing down on reserve.
Okay, and just one other question, the information that goes into the municipalities, is that being sent shortly in terms of sort of draft form?
So that's the proposal that's in front of you today, is that the information that was in your advanced package, so that overview of your programs and services, the draft budget, the companion piece, as well as the letter. That's what I'm asking for approval today, that we would circulate that out to our member municipalities starting tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be helpful, because we start budget the first meeting in December. Okay.
And usually I do get requests from some of your member municipalities clerks and things to give an early indication, and that was done in September or earlier, depending on where your staff are at.
Go ahead, Jen.
Through the chair. Well, thanks, Elizabeth, for this report. This is not easy to do. You have a great team to make it work. You have to be Houdini every so often, shifting things back and forth. Your funding is getting less all the time. It's a struggle day to day. So this report, I support it fully, and I know it's going to be some struggles down the road, but we're in good hands because things are going back and forth, and you make it work, and your team make it work. Thank you very much for this report.
Any other questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Sorry, if we can go to page 10, which is a statement of operations, budget 24 draft. And my question is, when it says the middle column budget 2023, is that true budget, or is this adjusted budget forecast where we are planning to end?
No, Jerry, that would have been the budget that was approved for 2023.
Okay, so if that's what it is, how is our forecast looking? Are we on track? Are we potentially revenue looking at upswing, expenditure up and down? How is the forecast looking right now?
The forecast looking for right now for 2023 is good. I think we'll have a positive year in terms of the campgrounds, and that's where I'm saying, well, hopefully my assumption for the 2024 is that we end 2023 with the campground profits that we can push to our capital and wage subsidy reserve.
So if you look at the budget 2023, total revenues, total expenditures, you feel confident that we are going to deliver the bottom line?
Yes, for 2023.
For 2023, perfect. Thank you. Can you please, for 2022, can you please give me some comments on the donations and general operating?
Yeah, 2022 was an unusual year. You'll see a really big donation in there. That's not normal for the authority or those high general operating costs. It's relative to the land donation that we received in 2022. So there's a significant land donation, and as well as a significant fundraising effort to acquire that piece of land. So that's where you're seeing really high donations in 2022 and higher than normal operating costs.
So is it the operating cost is so much higher because it's partially offsetting?
It was mainly because of the land donation coming in. And the offsetting costs of taking that land donation on. There was legal costs, all of those things that came in under those general operating costs, but it was offset with those donations.
Okay, thank you for that. And last question, and sorry, I could have done the math, but I haven't. In terms of the percentage increases to each municipality, is the percentage increase same across the board to municipalities?
No, it never is. The general levy increase is 7.5, but it will be different for each member municipality based on your changes in your CVA.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Great, thank you, Jerry. It's Lawrence.
I think that's pretty well.
Go ahead, Todd.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The province's portion, is it 2% or it just works out to 2%? Like, is that a sliding scale? So as we raise our costs, does the province continue to pay 2%? They have a cap, so that dwindles down from 2%. If we raise our fees, it might be 1.5%, it might be 0.5% at some point.
Chair to Todd, yeah, the provincial transfer payment has been stagnant at 61 since 2018. It used to be 119. They cut it in half in 2018. So it's stagnant, it stays there, it doesn't change, but you're correct in terms of the percentage of our revenue. As other things increase, it would get less as a percentage.
Any other questions? If not, we have a recommendation that the budget for 2024 draft 1 be approved for consultation purposes, circulated to all participating municipalities, posted at the KCCA's website. Over second, please. Frank and Sharon.
Baldwin Sands,
Yes.
Burrs,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pribble,
Yes.
Noble,
Yes.
Trousseau, Sam, Wilson,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
That motion still passes.
I was yes,
And-
I just,
Yes.
Was that a yes, Sam?
yes, it was.
Thank you.
And moving down to item H, planning and regulation activities.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just looking for a receipt of the advanced package that outlines just a few planning applications and permits issued since the last meeting.
Questions or concerns? Very straightforward. So recommendation is September planning regulations activity report be received. Jim and Lori?
Baldwin Sands,
Yes.
Frank Burrs,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pribble,
Yes.
Noble,
Yeah.
Trousseau,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
So that brings us down to closed session. Need a motion to go into closed session for a legal matter. That's your privilege. Sharon and Lori and Todd is declared, so first, Todd will be taken. I guess.
Just,
Okay.
well, I'm assuming all Baldwin Sands,
Yes.
Burrs, Herbert, McMillan,
Yes.
Pribble,
Yes.
Noble,
Yes.
Trousseau,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
And you're enclosed as a 10:56.